Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Post-spooky desert stories.
Be me, 14 years old. Grandfather owns a massive ranch in down southern Utah passed down from his father or something. One day the family decides to spend a week there. Hype because I love the outdoors and I get to see my cousins again. Fast forward to the trip, have a huge dinner with everyone. End up sleeping in the barn loft with cousins. Furnished room but still kinda strange. Something just felt off with it. Only has 2 windows, one on each end looking out towards the ranch house and the other facing the open desert. First few days were great, riding 4-wheelers, shooting guns. One day the 4 of us rode off to an area on the property called The Flats by my cousins. Literal flat desert for as far as the eye could see. Sparse vegetation dotted the landscape. While playing around, we find an old, single-roomed, burnt-out cabin. A couple of us wanted to go inside, but the oldest says no because it looks unsafe and could fall apart at any minute. Was already kinda dark, so we decided to head back. Starts getting darker faster than we expected. Oldest decides we cut straight through the brush to get back quicker, because when it gets dark out there. While trailblazing, we come across a small clearing. Tiny-ass clearing, maybe 15 meters in diameter. Sun is almost under the horizon and you can barely make out anything. That's when we see it. Can only make out the shapes through the headlights. Small clearing has bones scattered all around it. Mental, wow, that's weird. Eventually we found our way back to the house. Parents are pissed. Parents go with Grandma off into town to pick up food and leave us with our grandpa. While sitting outdoors that night roasting marshmallows, we started telling him what happened. Apparently the burnt cabin was there on the property when his father bought it. One of my cousins asks him about the boneyard. "What boneyard?" he asks. I explained to him that we saw animal skulls and bones lying around in this spot. "That's weird," he said. "I'll check it out with your father tomorrow." His response wasn't reassuring, and I was still creeped out from the whole thing. Lying in bed listening to the wind fly past the barn. Movement catches my eye in the window. There's a cat sitting on the windowsill staring into the loft. WTF, how did that get up here? Turn over and go to sleep. Wake up in the morning and the yard gets checked out. Grandpa finds his horse's bones in the clearing. Apparently my grandfather's horses kept disappearing a few years back and he sold the rest out of frustration. Grandpa, furious, calls the sheriff and they say they'll be over when they can. Bored, so I take a walk with one of my cousins and we're a good distance from everyone else. Casually chatting when we hear a noise like a safety whistle being blown. We stop and there is dead silence. No insects, nothing. Wait a few seconds and hear it again. A short, high-pitched tweet from an emergency whistle. I want to go investigate, but my cousin tells me that we are the only ones on the property and the neighbors are all way too old to be out here. I insist, but he just says, "Anon, no, we're going back. Head back to Grandpa and Dad in the clearing. Sheriff said it was some animal." Grandpa calls bullshit, but they can't do anything about it and just tells us to stay on watch for anything else. Tomorrow is the last day. Spend the rest of the day with cousins and we go back to sleep that night. The cat is watching me again. That was almost 11 years ago, and I still remember it vividly. Probably not as spooky as some of the other stories, but was still very unnerving.
Driving in the desert here in California, see some really nice-looking dunes? Decide to camp near an old sycamore tree in the desert. Decide to go hiking through the desert. Came across a dried-up river, walked up the river for about 4 hours. On the way, notice a spinal cord along the path. Assume it came from some animal. Notice truck tires going from the river up a hill. Decide to follow them. House with very old tiles hidden between 2 hills in a canyon. It's really dark since it's in a canyon and it gets no sunlight. Notice no cars or anything. Feel a gust of cold, icy wind in the hot California weather come my way. Say fuck it and leave. While walking on my way back, notice lots of footsteps that aren't mine. Something was following me for the past hour. Sprint all the way back to my car as fast as I can. I probably came across a Satanist house or something.
Be me, a few years ago. Live in Iowa. Wintertime, December, because it was just before Christmas. Get into a fight with family and decide to drive to the Grand Canyon. thinking about the fight and feeling bad. Spend night at some shitty campsite in Nebraska or something. Keep driving the next morning. I ended up in Colorado, I think, during a big snowstorm. Find an RV park that I have to stay at, sleep in the car. Wake up and drive all day to the Grand Canyon. Get there as the sun is going down, kinda cloudy and cold. Tons of tourists there. Stay there for like 10 minutes and decide to leave. Go to Flagstaff and think about staying somewhere there but get sketched out for some reason, so I decide to head for home. Buy some energy drinks and take a more southern route than I came from. Get too jacked on the energy drinks and feel too twitchy to drive, but I keep going. That drive just felt surreal. I can't explain it. It was really dark and windy and just felt like hell. Anyway, get into Albuquerque and sleep in my car at a Walmart. Keep driving the next day and get all turned around somehow. End up on a road that takes me back to where I was, that sort of thing. Didn't really sleep well, so I am getting tired. Take a scenic route to get off the main highway because I need to relax a little. This was either in Texas or Oklahoma. I think Texas, but I'm not sure. Literally in the middle of nowhere, there is this rest stop with like a couple small trees and some picnic tables, nothing else. Pulled in and stretched my legs a bit and decided to take a nap in the car again. It was kinda hot, but I was exhausted, so I was in and out of sleep fairly easily. Sleep for a somewhat longer spell towards the end, and wake up to realize the sun had gone down behind the horizon. See what looks to be a dark figure sitting at the table in front of my car. Get freaked out. Look around and don't see any cars. Turn on my lights and see some guy in black pants and black hoodie facing away from me, rocking back and forth. How did this guy even get out here? Hear him mumbling something, but I can't make out what it is. Decided to roll down my window a bit and listen. He is singing, "Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus," under his breath. He never gets to any other verses though. Just keeps repeating, "Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus," over and over. Feel a rush of adrenaline for some reason and start my car. Slowly start backing onto the road as I roll my window all the way down. Put the car into drive and sit on the brake for a little bit while I keep listening to this guy. "Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus." Yell out from the car, right down Santa Claus Lane. Guy whips his head back and makes this crazy sound like a severely autistic person would make. Then he gets up and runs off into the other direction, where there is literally nothing for miles and miles. The rest of the trip home was pretty uneventful.
Camping in the high desert in a sweet Astro van. Been out there for a few days, moving around to different spots each day. Outside cooking up some delicious hot dogs on the Coleman. A dog runs up out of nowhere. Seems friendly enough. Figure there's another camper nearby. Look around, don't see anyone. Wait a little while, eat some hot dogs. Still nobody around. Maybe he's feral or lost and just wants some hot dog. Offer, but he doesn't take. He starts walking off, stopping, looking back and kind of stamping his front feet. Maybe I should follow him. Timmy fell down the well.jpg, start following, and he takes off. It is going too fast to keep up with. All of a sudden, I come to a cliff and almost fall off. First thought is, oh shit, doggo ran off the cliff. Got down on my belly, crawled to the edge and looked down. Couldn't see him, even through my binocs. Just then, an eagle or hawk or something goes flying out, seemingly from the cliffside. My face when a skinwalker just tried to kill me.
2011. B24. Prospecting on the Mojave public lands. Normally I go with friends or coworkers, but everyone was busy with their lives. Be bored out of my mind and go alone. Took a metal detector, my guns, plenty of water, drove early. Most of the day was very uneventful. Few interesting stones, but not any rare metals. Normally go for the meteorites, but that day, nothing. Venture deeper into the valleys between the hills. On a clear patch, notice a circle rock formation. No ash nor trash. Place my metal detector. No metals. Snap a picture. Scan my surroundings. Tempted to dig. Began to wonder if it would be a dead body. If I dig, I would tamper the evidence. Stay on that spot for hours. Shall I dig? Maybe it's a dog. Maybe it's a treasure. Maybe a week-old corpse. took the GPS coordinates and left the area. I have not told this to anyone. I might return in the near future to excavate, in case it's a treasure, and if not, I could use a human skull for decoration.
Born and raised in the Atacama Desert, all of my aunts and uncles have seen UFOs. Be me, chilled in the literal middle of nowhere, nothingness in 100 miles in all directions. Behind a small hill, I can see red and blue lights and a strange sound. Nothing comes out of the hill. The lights just stay there. Not gonna walk a mile in the desert at night following creepy lights. Next morning, I asked my aunt about it. She lived there her whole life. She tells me the story of the duendes, small humanoids that live underground and hide in the desert. Miners have hundreds of stories about them. Scared shitless, I prepare to spend another night in the cabin. I look around every corner. In the night, I heard strange sounds again. Now I know there shouldn't be anything there. Waiting in the cabin, holding tight to my machete. Please, big Chango in the sky, let it be one of those huge desert spiders. Sounds approach the door. Anything opens it and gets a free machete in the head. Quick flash of light under the door, and then nothing. No sound, no lights, nothing until the sun comes up. I'll never visit my aunt again. Many years later, I heard about the Atacama Humanoid and started visiting /x/. I collected many stories about the small people of the desert. They all told the same story. Watched something small walking on two legs, noticed me and ran away.
Hey, this is my first post on 4chan ever. I'm kinda weirded out because sometime I come here to read stories when I'm bored, but this thread really hit home. I'm not a big believer of the supernatural, but I have had one instance in my life that freaked me out. It is eerily similar to several other stories I read here describing skinwalkers. It happened in a place called Miracle Mile, or around D, there in the state of Wyoming. My family was living in Montana for work, and we took a camping trip with another family. I will tell the whole story in the next post, once I know this is how you respond. Believe me when I say this is my first post on 4chan ever. It was summer in 1998, and my dad and two brothers decided with Dad's friend and his two kids, Montana residents, my family is Canadian, to go to this campground near Casper, Wyoming for a fishing trip. We all traveled together in a van all night and arrived at the site late at night. I'm the oldest in my family, and the same age as the oldest son of my dad's friend, so we decided to have our own little dome tent while everyone else stayed in this large family tent. We made camp beside a river and went to bed. No disturbances. How can I describe the campsite? I remember it looked like the surface of the moon. No trees, only rocks and desert-like. A really shitty place for a 14-year-old to camp. The site was chosen by my dad's friend, avid outdoorsman and hunter, due to supposed great fishing. The next day, we decided to explore. All the kids headed off to see the river and play around. While hiking, we came to this large rock outcrop. The base was stained black in large blotches the size of dinner plates, and we found animal bones on the ground. Kinda cool, but not anything us young kids thought of as weird. The day was spent in general kid fashion, and as night came, we had a nice meal and sat around fire. We began hearing weird noises, almost like a baby crying, soft and distant. All the kids were freaked out, but my dad's friend assured us it was a bobcat and very far away. Don't know anything about this and would appreciate anyone knowledgeable in this to confirm. Either way, he had a rifle in the truck and a pistol .38 with snake shot. I believe he called it for ammo, so we decided to file it under not an issue and went to bed. Me and my friend were in our own tent playing cards when we heard some movement outside. This was about an hour and a half after everyone went to bed, so we slowly zipped the fly down a little and looked outside. My father's friend was walking the perimeter with his gun drawn, almost searching for something. We kept quiet while we watched him pace around with a concerned look on his face. Before he went to the main tent, he retrieved his rifle from the truck and loaded it, taking it with him to the big tent. We never heard anything else and passed out for the night. The next day, we asked my friend's dad why he was outside last night with his gun drawn. He told us not to worry and that he had just thought he heard something in the camp. That was fishing E for us, but I could tell he was still a little weird about it. I should say that he is not a crazy man. He is actually a very intelligent engineer with no paranormal thoughts. We believe he was just worried about a legitimate dangerous animal causing damage or being a danger to the camp. That day we did have some weird occurrences. 1. We discovered several dead rodents on the rock with the black stains. We now think the other stains were older blood marks. Very weird and have no idea how they got there. 2. We discovered tracks in the sand around the camp. They almost circled the camp 25 meters around us, well within where darkness would have been. My dad's friend said they resembled coyotes but were larger. The amount of tracks indicated more than one. Don't know if coyotes are in Wyoming, but assume they are. 3. Our cooler in the truck bed was opened and food rummaged. This pointed to coons as they could climb and could manipulate the cooler easily, but did not explain the tracks though, as they were definitely not coon prints. After the discovery of the tracks indicating a rather large animal, we decided we would move camp the next day. The fishing had dropped off as well, so it was decided it would be our last night here. Everyone was a little freaked out about getting eaten by a wolf or whatever. We ate pretty much in silence, and I could tell my father and his friend were now concerned for the kids. We moved our little pup tent closer to the big one and brought our pellet gun to bed. Fruitless, I know, for protection. The kids all went to bed, and my dad and friend remained up talking around the campfire. We played cards until we could hear my dad and friend finally knock off, and we fell asleep. Sometime in the middle of the night, we were awoken by sounds of plates and cutlery clanging as if something was on the table messing with the food. We couldn't find our flashlight, so my friend and I yelled to wake our dads to see what's going on. Once we did, the clanging stopped as if to listen to where the sound came from. We were sitting up in our beds, terrified as to what was outside. Then we heard this low, guttural cooing noise I have never heard in my life. At this point, my dad's friend called out asking what we wanted. We started to say something was outside when there was a loud crash. We later discovered it was our wash basin being pushed off the table. Another loud, guttural call from farther away, and we were full-blown panicking. It felt like my dad's friend was taking forever to go and check what was happening outside. Finally, we could see illumination from his flashlight as he opened the tent zipper. This is when all hell broke loose. I will describe the final events in my last post as clearly as I can remember them. The first thing I remember is my dad's friend yelling aloud to maybe frighten off the animal. Then came the actual scream as he yelled to my father to get the rifle, panicked convo as they assembled in the tent. We were yelling now, asking what's going on when we heard the first gunshot. It was finally time to open our tent. What I saw has stayed with me to this day, 16 years later. My father, in his boxers and a flashlight, illuminated his friend who was holding the rifle and pointing and screaming at the truck. Upon opening the tent, my dad's friend had startled a creature near our table, apparently drinking the water in our wash basin. After my dad's friend screamed at the animal, he made a call to its mate or some other animal standing near the truck. Once retrieving the rifle, he fired at the animal by the truck as the other had run out of sight. When I had managed to look outside, they had been approaching the animal believed to be hiding behind the truck. My dad's friend approached the truck and kicked the back quarter panel, rocking it in an attempt to flush out the creature. It worked, and the animal bolted away 20 meters past our tent and into the darkness. Due to the closeness of our tent, my dad's friend decided not to take a second shot. We decided to pack most of our things that night and slept in the van. We talked about what we all saw and tried to make a reasonable conclusion about what went on that night. We decided that the animal was about 4 feet tall and slender. It appeared gray with short hair but could have been white or tan due to only flashlights illuminating it. It had long legs that bent like a kangaroo with shorter arms and a short tail. It ran on 2 legs, but when it first appeared beside the truck, it was on 4 for a short while before picking up on 2. It did not hop, as say a kangaroo does, but rather had a gait to its run. On all 4s, the animal was roughly 3 feet high. The mouth and face were dog-like. We reported the incident to the Parks Department in Casper, Wyoming. They were skeptical to say the least, but did say they had similar reports going back a few years. No attacks were reported, just sightings. The best guess at the time was like we thought. A couple kangaroos were released illegally and were living in Wyoming. I will admit that it did resemble a kangaroo, but doesn't explain several other parts of the story, like the walking gait and the noises and the dead rodents. I'm open to suggestions or questions on what you guys think. Hit me with your best guesses.
Barstow is home to one of the most haunted areas in America. Famously, the Harvey House served as a hospital of some sorts during the time when Barstow was known as Waterman Junction. At least that's what the adults always told us. They said that the hospital never quite had enough money, so death was frequent. According to the stories I heard in high school, sneaking into the Harvey House with its dusty windows and creaking floors was one of the worst things you could do, as the longer you were there, the easier it was to get lost. Currently, it serves as a train station, but I never see a single passenger. We actually get teams ghost hunters here all the time, looking to sneak in at any opportunity. That's just a sample, though. You see, the high school and some of the elementaries in Barstow were built during the Cold War, when the threat of nukes and radiation was a huge issue. Our school is designed in a manner similar to that of a bomb shelter. Heavy, dense concrete walls about 14 feet high or so. But the interesting part wasn't the walls, but rather what lie beneath. You see, underneath the schools lie these huge red doors, massive in nature. These doors are vandalized and at times are forced open by brave students. What we found is miles of underground paths that link all of our schools together, small tunnels that a person of average height can walk through. We were led to believe that these passages are used in the event of nuclear attack due to our close proximity to Fort Irwin. However, the attacks never came to fruition, and so the passages became disused, waiting for any brave teen to crawl through its twisting paths again. I've attempted it myself, as there's an entrance situated beneath the old gym that one can get to should they appropriate a key. Once inside, you can feel a gust of air from either direction. I could only manage about 10 minutes inside, but the walls are marked with the distances people traveled, as well as the occasional shirt, glow stick, or water bottle. Creepiest thing about it has to be the graffiti, though. The entrance I used read, "The door to the end of the world," and it was displayed proudly over the crawl space.
I've read some stories on this board, and while I'm very skeptical about most of them, I can't deny that weird shit happens often. 30 years ago, I experienced something similar. I'm a retired Moroccan soldier. In the 1980s, I used to work in the Moroccan desert, usually defending it from separatists. Everything seemed normal in the first few weeks after I was assigned to work there. There was me and another newbie soldier. We used to spend time together the whole night since our shift used to start at dusk. One day, my comrade and I, right after our shift, started hearing what seemed to be like carnival noises, a lot of laughter and music. Being in the middle of nowhere, we almost shat our pants, but we decided to check that out anyway. We kept walking for quite a long time, following the noises until they suddenly stopped. We noticed a strange man waving at us from afar. We immediately pulled out our guns and checked him. He seemed normal. He was wearing a Sahrawi long dress and covering his face. He then invited us to his camp, and we agreed. While heading to it, he asked us to not raise our heads and only keep looking at the ground. We thought it was normal because we thought maybe some women were there. After we arrived, he served us some food and we started eating. It was the most delicious food I ever tasted, though my comrade was only eating a little, despite him liking the food too. After that, I felt so sick and noticed the Sahrawi man and his kids looking at me. I then puked and my comrade did too. We were eating coal and we almost passed out. Suddenly, my vision got blurry and I no longer kept seeing the camp. We were just sitting on some sand hill surrounded by nothing. We left there barely able to walk and returned to the base, where we got punished. After we told the story to some old pals there, they told us not to think too much about it and that similar stories happen often there.
Spirits are very real. Sometimes they manifest in our reality, sometimes we in theirs. They have a better grasp on consciousness in impressive ways. We have a better grasp on manipulating the physical. They are as impressed by our airplanes as we are by the shapes they can manifest, for example, or how they can alter things in our minds. It's a pretty confusing and slightly traumatic event. I think it helps to view your experiences different, but in the same category as meeting aliens, fairy abductions, meeting the small light men on mushrooms, and so on. It's weird how this isn't talked about much, and when you try to bring it up, people often just smirk.
Back in the spring of 2016, a few of my friends were talking about their experience with some weird creature in the desert southeast of Tucson near Vail, Arizona. I was skeptical, but I didn't want to doubt my friends, because whatever this was had really scared them. They said that they believed it was some kind of alien being. Later on that year, in the winter, these sightings were far from my mind. I was visiting a friend who lived in Vail. I stayed over late that evening. At about 2 a.m., I left their house to drive about 25 minutes down I-10 towards home. Driving about 50 miles per hour, when approaching a rise in the road, I saw a silhouette. Before I even processed that I was observing something, I soon realized that I had slowed and eventually stopped on the shoulder to get a better view. It was about 20 yards or so away, standing almost in the middle of the road. Because of the rise in the road, I could only see this form from the hips up. It was very tall and looked human-like, very skinny, with long, thin arms and skin that was dark, leathery, and dry, though there was a sheen to the body. The eyes were a reflective red color. I couldn't tell if it was looking at me or not. There wasn't another car in sight at the time. I'm usually very calm during emergency situations. I'm very interested in unexplained phenomena, but confronting this thing, the panic switch flipped. My mind is telling me to hit the gas, but I just sit there, staring at this thing. I looked down for a second, considering turning around and driving back to my friend's house. I put the car in first gear, looked back up, and the being was gone. I immediately drove towards my house. I was shivering uncontrollably the whole way home. I pulled into the driveway, walked in the kitchen door, and became violently ill. I literally passed out in my bathroom. I didn't wake up until about 1 p.m. that day. I dragged myself off the bathroom floor and immediately went to bed. I was totally exhausted and just wanted to sleep. I rarely left the bedroom for the next 5 days. I had no appetite, and it seemed like every bone in my body ached. One of my friends eventually came over and helped me into the living room. I ate a little bit, but I was still very tired and despondent. I didn't tell her or anyone else what I had encountered. I just said that I had the flu.
They are using this hospital called Desert Parkway to do MK Ultra experiments or operations. This is where all military in the state are held against their will for mental issues. They sometimes bus people in from surrounding states too. They choose members who have very few friends and family to support them, especially young ones who have already attempted an hero or got close. If no one on the outside is trying to get someone out after a few weeks, they move the person to a different unit where they can do whatever they want to people. After years, they can just drive the person totally insane or dump them, and no one believes the homeless around Vegas stories or end them. But if the mind control stuff works, they keep them around release and pick them up again whenever they want. They use psychiatric drugs, including forced injections, electric shock, surgery, and weird hypnosis. They claim it's EMDR, but it's different. Isolation, restraints, dehydration, starvation, and more. If you are in the military and want to get a psychiatric discharge, do not go to your command or call 911 or go to a regular hospital. Find a nearby private mental hospital and admit yourself. They are usually called behavior institutes and stuff. But if you allow yourself to be admitted in any way through the military when you are actively serving, you can be royally fucked. Like I said, it doesn't happen to everyone, but if you don't have friends or family that really care, and I mean won't bail on you after a few months of erratic behavior while you try to come back from this shit, do not admit yourself through the military. Do not admit to state or government-owned facilities. They will transfer you here if you are a good candidate. It's literally a factory for free experiment subjects and operators. Be cautious, anons. Warn friends in the military. I only know about this state, but there are probably a few other hospitals in the country that are also vectors for the practice.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.